So for this call, I have on the incredible Dij. Dij is my business mentor, and I have been working with her for 8 months now, I think. And I've worked with Dij on and off in the past as well. And I just fucking love you. And we've had a whole like experience of that journey as well. But I really want to have Dij on in this collaboration project to really speak about topics related to like grit, resilience, and complacency. And I was just saying to Dij before that I started the recording for this, that my experience at the retreat with her that I recently went to really highlighted to me how like complacent I have been, and how complacent that everyone tends to become when that we move from a place of going from shit to good, but then we stay stuck at good. And Dij has really helped me with my mindset in that, and actually moving from a space of like wanting more for myself. So I really want to open up a conversation about that today. But before we do, Dij, can you just introduce yourself, give people that might be new to you, your world, who you are and what you do?
Oh my God, I love that. And I hate this part. I'm like, I don't even know what to say, but my name is Dij. I'm a business mentor. I've been in business for about 6 years now. Was a personal trainer at a really incredible gym. Then I transitioned into my own business when COVID hit, the same story as everyone. And then yeah, I fucking love that. I built two really incredible businesses, and then I transitioned into the online space, and very, very quickly just decided I really love working with business owners and working on their relationship to grit. So it's a lot of the same conversations that I was having as a personal trainer. It just looks like business owners now, which is really, really cool. I'm 25 on Monday, which is very exciting. And yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I love it. I love it. And I think it's cool because you can definitely tell your background of like fitness. And when we went to Dij's retreat, the first exercise we did, we were holding a weight plate above our head, a 10-kilo weight plate, and it fucking crushed like everyone, not physically, but like emotionally, everyone crumbled. And I think it's really cool because you have such an unorthodox approach to mindset coaching, where you definitely bring in your infusion of like your experience of life into your coaching, which is cool too.
Yeah, I think that before I was a personal trainer, I played highly competitive soccer. And I had this one mentor, and he was my coach at the time, and he really like started a lot of this for me. I remember he used to say good to great, not in the same language, but he used to say that when he used to train us girls, there's levels to our emotional state. And he used to say to us, I want to get you angry. I want to see your ticker, because like at the end of the day, it's like, when you get that first phase, it's like, oh my God, like his name was Brett at the time. It's like, fucking hell, Brett, like, why are you putting me through this? And then it's like, then you get angry, and then it's like, you get almost sad. He used to be like, you get angry at him, then you get sad, and then you get like angry at yourself, because it's the different stages. So I think that I really learned, especially like with my fitness journey as well, just like the different levels of people's minds. And yeah, it's those plates right there, which maybe you're probably like looking at them going, I'm so incredibly triggered in the best way. But yeah, basically the idea around it was a lot of people walking around with so much weight over their head and limitations. And I wanted you to feel it from a very tangible standpoint, like this in front of you. You need to fucking feel what it feels like, because I see a lot of people sit in complacency, and the only thing stopping you from good to elite is limitations, is internal stories, is weight holding you back, and until you fucking feel it, it's like Tony Robbins always says, you have to link pain to change, extreme amounts of pain or pleasure. And until you fucking felt that, you were like, everyone cracked immediately. And I'm like, it's so cool to see that all it took for you was someone to say what's holding you back, and you standing with the weight of your head, and everyone knew instantly what it was. It's like, I didn't do anything. I just highlighted and gave you an opportunity to see it. And that's what fascinates me the most, is like, yes, it's very unorthodox. And yes, I do like to take people through different things, but it's like, it's already there. I'm just telling you to do something to highlight it. And I think that was the coolest part. And yeah, I think I learned a lot of these unorthodox things from playing soccer, from, you know, getting put through sessions. And none of it was for fitness. None of it was to play soccer, because it was like, it's all for your mental resilience. Because my coach used to always say, if you're fitter than everyone else, will win regardless of what skill we have. And that's something that I still to this day believe in. Like, if you have the mental endurance, regardless of what skill level you have, you outwork or outdo or outsell anyone just purely from your endurance. And I still believe a lot of those same principles and concepts now, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you absolutely bring that into your business coaching as well. And even something that we experienced on the retreat, the other thing we were doing was sprints, and we are doing like a shit ton of running and sprints. I could not walk for days after this retreat. But one of the things we did, and like that was a huge topic of the retreat, was like, you know, actually constantly pushing kind of your limit, and like, you know, okay, you said you're done with your shit, but like show me that you're done with your shit kind of thing. And I remember must have been the last day, I think, and we did like, we're doing sprints again, and we did like the final sprint. You were like, cool, everyone go. We did it. Everyone went like 100%, 110%. And I remember everyone like sitting down, like, fuck, that was hard. And I just remember standing back, like hands on my hips, just looking at you, and you're just looking at me, and we both knew what like it meant. I was like, this is the time. And I think that's where so many people, and like myself included, where you miss it. Like, you've done all of the compounding work, you're about to get the result you want to have in business, life, whatever, and then you stop because you're like, that's enough. And I think that's something you've really like role modeled to me. And it's like almost like unlocked that part where I've the same, like in past sport, it's like, fucking be the person that does the extra sprint, like do the extra thing, like go the extra mile, and you'll have the results. And I was like, we're fucking going again. And everyone was so fucked off. But afterwards, they were like, I'm so glad I did it. And I think that's cool, where like, that's the thing of complacency. Hey, like, yeah, you did the sprint. Yeah, you tried really hard. But I think that's like what you're kind of oh my God, English, rewriting the narrative for people around complacency. Because it's like, that was the other thing we did that really like highlighted it to us at the retreat, was we rated like areas in our life from like 1 to 10. So it was like money, sex, relationships, business, like a bunch of areas. And I was like rating them out of 10. I was like, yep, relationship solid, 8 out of 10, like doing all of these things. Then we realized after, like, we're measuring ourselves on a scale from shit to good. And that's why that you stay stuck, because you're like, but I'm good. And that's what you're measuring yourself off, where we went from, what would it be like, what's your filthy rich? Like, that's what I said to you. I was like, well, I'm basically poor.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's where a lot of people get stuck. And again, myself included, with being complacent, because you settle for good. So what do you think the reasons that people stay at good? Like, why do we settle for good?
I believe it's because there's no more pain driving you. And people don't know. We've had this conversation in private before, especially when you come back from Europe. It was like, hey, I'm noticing like X, Y, and Z. And I think that people don't know how to move when there's no pain driving. So the reason why you went to good, from shit to good so quickly, is there was so much pain. It was like, I'm broke, or my ex-boyfriend's fucked up, or my business fucking shut itself, or like whatever it is. Like, I hate my life. So it's like you have so much pain driving you. And then when you get to good, everyone unconsciously does the thing of like, oh, but it's not what it used to be. Or like, I've come so far. And like every time you have a moment of maybe you're being challenged, it's like, oh, but like, I shouldn't be that hard on myself. Like, I've got so far. And I'm like, I just want to like, just be like, no, like that's true. And you have so far to go. Like, you haven't even scratched the surface, babe. And I think that from coaching a lot of women over the years, it's there's no more pain driving you. And a lot of people haven't built the skill set to move when there's choice, move when it's fucking pure pleasure, and moving from pain to moving from pleasure. And what comes with that, because there's a lot of like, a lot of people see the world, and I know that we spoke about this at the retreat, through it's a one or the other, where it's like, oh, it used to be, and they forget the word and I haven't even scratched the surface yet. And I have just like literally, if you're going from shit to good, you've just gotten started. Like that's the realistic standpoint of you actually haven't even scratched the surface. You've gone from shit to good. You're comparing shit. Like
You've just taken your training wheels off and you haven't even.
yeah, like you've just gotten there. And I think that that's the difference. It's a lot of people don't know how to move away from operating from just pain, and then when they stop operating from pain, they stop growing altogether, and they sit in like a lot of like, oh, but it used to be shit, and they sit in and they mask it with gratitude, and yeah, it is gratitude, but still it's complacency. And I think that the growing period can feel so uncomfortable sometimes, and it's like you kind of get, I would say, a little bit entitled to be like, oh, I don't want to have to fucking go through that shit again. And it's like, you almost don't want to experience the discomfort as well that comes with growing. So you like the comfort and you like the good, instead of like go from good to great. You've got to go through the process again, and it looks different, and it's the unknown and blah, blah, blah. And no one likes that shit, which is like the fun shit for me. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, because it's like that's when comes like the thing of, you know, where people want you to do good, and then you get to a certain point and then it feels like you potentially like lose support from people, like from moving those levels and all of the things. But I think the gratitude thing was huge for me at the retreat. And like there's conversations around duality, right? Like you can have the both, like two opposing things can coexist of you can be grateful and want more. But I think for me, it was like wanting more meant that I was losing a lot of gratitude. And I definitely went through a season in business in particular where I lost so much gratitude. And then that had a flow on effect in every area of my life. And I remember going for a run after the retreat, and I literally was like listening to Halo. I was like crying, and I was like, fuck, like something like a run, it's so easy to just like complain and like, this is fucking hard and I don't want to do this. But it's like, how many people are out there wanting to go for a run right now and they can't? Or how many people, you know, insert your thing, whether it's business, life, your relationship, like come back into gratitude, and then equally that like instantly rather that moves it to a higher frequency and you can desire more, where it's like, I'm so grateful to be running right now. What would it be like to push myself even further and get a PB?
Yeah. And I said this to you guys at the retreat. It's like, for me, my mindset really is, if I'm not moving and pushing my limit, that's actually ungrateful, because I have the ability. And it's like so ungrateful. Like that frequency of not doing what I know that I can feels so ungrateful, versus like a lot of people like grateful for just where they're at. But I'm like, that feels ungrateful in my mind, because it's like, but you have the choice, Dij. Like in my mind, I'm like, but you have the choice. And gratitude is because I can, because I actually am grateful enough. And I said this to you guys at the retreat, like I have the choice, and a lot of people don't. And that's the reality. Like that is blank reality and a statement. And to me, maximizing my potential, money, life, happiness, because I can, is grateful, is me being and living in the most like grateful frequency that I can, which a lot of people don't see it that way, and that gets to be perfect. But for me, I feel so ungrateful settling, because I'm like, some people don't have this choice, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like the other thing for you that like just like makes a huge difference in the way in which that you lead, and I really noticed this like just observing you at the retreat, is just like your story and like your family and like the experiences that you've had, and like how that's really shaped like your perspective on things. Would you like be open to sharing just a little bit about that, in terms of like, I feel like the biggest thing for you is your family, and I know how close like your family is for you, just your journey in that, and like how that they kind of like drive and motivate your purpose, I guess.
Yeah, my family's like definitely 1000% my driver. It's my biggest driver on a daily basis. I grew up with like a huge family unit. My parents were born overseas. My mum fell pregnant with my eldest brother when she was 16, and my dad was in the war. And yeah, they had to fucking, it's a pretty gnarly story. And I never found out this story. It's crazy because I only found out this story when I traveled when I was like 19. And it's like, it's cool because my parents never threw it in my face where it was like, I fucking did everything for you. And it's like, I never knew. It's like, they didn't actually tell me until I was at my grandparents overseas, and they got drunk one night and everyone started talking. And I was like, is this true? Like, did this happen? And yeah, basically what happened was somebody who was in our family passed away in the war, and my dad was currently serving at the time, and it was kicking off. So they had to escape, no passports, like full fucking no passports in the middle of the night, like what you can think. And then from there, they moved and found my auntie who lived in a different country. And then they came to Australia. One-way ticket, no English, 2 kids, like a fucking suitcase. Like they didn't know how to speak English, which is fucking crazy. Like my mom tells me stories and she's like, they had to do English class and she had to like walk out in the street and ask people for the time for them to get like a permanent visa and stuff like that. And what? Like she'd be like, excuse me, what's the time? And like my parents are like immigrants, right? And I have like, it's funny when I speak about a lot of things, it's like I have a very immigrant mentality. I was the only one in my family born here in Australia. So my parents moved here and yeah, they fucking had to work their ass off. And I think that like my dad is an incredible role model for me. He now is a builder. He's got an incredible salary. And I think that like my dad came here when he was 22, I think, and my mom was 18. And my dad's now 50, and my dad's got an incredible salary. Like he's got an incredible job. He's got an incredible like a company car, like a very like he's got a really good salary, a company car, like all these things. And like that's his dream. Like, and you think about fuck, people live here their whole life. They don't make half the money my dad makes. And he came here and he didn't know how to say fucking how are you? Do you know what I mean? And my mom's really similar. So I think that I watched two people have such long-term vision, and I grew up as a unit. So yeah, it's funny. I grew up, I think I shared this story at the retreat. Me and my brothers, I shared a room with my brothers till I was 16 and my brothers was 18. And I remember one day I said to my brother, I'm like, Daniel, why don't you bring girls home? He's like, I have a bunk bed and I share a room with my fucking sister. And I was like, true, very true. And yeah, like I grew up in a team. It was like a fucking cohort. It was you're in trouble, everyone's in trouble. They get in trouble, you're in trouble. You're grounded, they're grounded. And it was like we had to learn to work together, and we had to learn to work as a team. And yeah, my parents are my biggest role models, like to what they've created, the happiness that they have, the joy that they have from literally coming here as an 18 and 20-year-old. Like that's fucking wild when you think about it. Like I'm sorry, but there's people who have lived in Australia their entire lives and they don't choose to do anything. So I think I because I went back and visited my family when I left school. So I was 18. What age are you when you finish high school?
17 or 18 usually.
Yeah, I think 17. I went back overseas for the first time since I was like 10, and I fucking got slapped with the entitlement. Like, you know, when like entitlement slaps you in the face, it like fucking slapped me in the face. I was like, I'm a spoiled fucking brat. I'm like, I just remember going back and thinking like, fuck me dead. And I remember like crying one night when I was at my grandma's thinking like, I'm so entitled. Like they don't have shit. Like they don't. And that's the reality. And like, if my parents never came to Australia, I'd be here. This would be my reality. I wouldn't know any different. And yeah, I just remember like fully just being like women don't have choice. Let's put it that way. That's the reality. It's like you find a man, you have a kid. Like very like 2023, this shit's still happening. It's like very yeah. Anyways, so I think when I came back, that was very that's when I left. I basically came back, left uni, was like, fuck this shit. I'm not doing something that I don't want to do. Enrolled into PT, didn't tell my parents. Then I applied to get a scholarship. So I knew I was going to get this scholarship. I was like, I'm going to fucking get it. I applied and I applied and I applied and I chased him up. And then it turns out she didn't get her scholarship, which was like a 10 grand course. And I had absolutely no money. I was working at Domino's in a cafe at the time. And I remember going to my mum. So I dropped out of uni. I started personal training. I now owe $10,000. And she was just like, if this is what you want to do, can we set up a payment plan? I think like my mom has been someone that's just like, how can we? I remember when I played rep soccer, it was like way out of her budget because unfortunately, like she works as, she's a chef, right? She's not, but it was just like, how can we get you in this soccer team? So I think there's a lot of, I saw someone really just like make it work, no matter, we had to make sacrifices in order to make it work and things like that. And I watched it, and I remember that, yeah, she paid for the course, which fucking go her, she's an elite human. And even when I quit my job at Definition at the gym that I worked at, I couldn't afford a laptop. And my mom was like, I'll put it on my credit card. Like, just like she's always shown up for me. And as an adult now, I can look back and be like, fuck, she's taught me so much. And yeah, I think just like never having anything, but it was like, it's funny, like she gave me all these things from choice. It wasn't from pain, it was from choice, and she made it work from choice. And I think that like she had so much choice as her driver. It wasn't pain because she left the pain, right? She could have settled, but she wanted to give out of choice. And I think that because I saw that, I was able to maximize the choice that I do have, which is why I am so successful, is because I watched that and then sprinkle in some more fucked up shit that happened in my life. And yeah, I'm the person that I am today, which is, yeah, my story.
Yeah. And just like so much in like the gratitude piece. And like you said, with the entitlement, it's like, yeah, people will complain about like, fuck, it's so hard to like sell on my Instagram stories. It's like, fuck, like you do just like have to have that moment of just being like, is this really the problem that I'm choosing right now? And like you said, come into so much gratitude for the situation you have, yet equally wanting more, because now like how much is the life you've created being able to further support your family and be able to give back to them too?
Yeah. And I think that that's what drives me so much, like, you know, giving back. And I shared this at the retreat. I gave my uncle $1,000 tattoo voucher, which to me, like, that's fucking headphones today are $1,000. Like the new Beats by Apple headphones are $1,000. And he was crying his eyes out. Like he was so grateful. And to me, that was just like, why wouldn't I do that? And I think that, like you said, it's choice and it's gratitude. And it's like, I think I always come back into, fuck, some people don't get this choice. Like, and I have the choice to sell every day. I actually have the choice to make unlimited amounts of money. And some people don't get that. And I know it's hard, and it comes with fucking some emotional turmoil sometimes, and judgment and fear. And don't get me wrong, that's all relevant, but it's the gratitude coming into, but some people actually don't fucking get this. And that to me is big enough for me to be like, I'm just going to sell today, you know? And every time I do sell, when I don't want to sell, I make a sale and I'm like, imagine if I didn't sell today. Like, it's one of those things where I'll always message Sarah and I'm like, like, imagine I didn't sell today. And I didn't sell from pain. I sold from choice. I get to do this every single day. And some days I don't want to do it, but I get to. And fuck, some girls don't get to train, let alone go for a walk. Like, you get to make money. Like, yeah, for me, it's just like, I've witnessed so many people that I love. And I think it hits different when I think there's a different attachment, because it's like, I know some people can logically see this, but when it's someone you fucking love and it's like my grandma, or like, she's such a good person, it's like, fuck, man, like, you'll live your whole life with 0.0065 amount of choice that I had. And like, yeah, that to me is like, that's enough. I don't need any more. I'll do the thing.
Yeah. And even with that too, like a huge conversation that we had, and like a process that you took us through at the retreat was like around consequences as well, of just like, well, what is the consequence of you not choosing to do the thing too? And you took us to like the extreme, but I think sometimes, again, this is that thing, right, of seeing like extreme like pleasure or pain, of like you not showing up and doing the thing actually has a compounding effect and fucking a huge ripple effect on everyone in your life. Like the shit all of us were seeing in that process, and like the who was dying. I was dead, my mum was dead, my dad was dead, my brother Isaac was off with like an incredible missus, and I was like, fuck this shit. Like, and it's like the small things that compound. And I think we think, you know, not showing up and selling, or not doing the thing, or not like watching the course replay back, or like just the smallest thing, going for a walk, eating the food, like whatever it might be, it's like it actually does have a fucking huge consequence, and it compounds. And we have the choice like to not let that consequence come to fruition, yet we continue to like choose to not do it. Because I think that's the other thing too. It's like that quote, like whatever you're not choosing, you're choosing. I don't even fucking know, I've butchered that.
I know what you're saying. It's like your results are choices you made 6 months ago. That one?
No, the one, it's like whatever you're not like doing, you're choosing, or something like that, where it's like the things you're not doing is also still a choice as well.
It's all choice. Yeah. And I think that like even yesterday I was at a funeral, and I've been to a lot of funerals, unfortunately, in my life. And this one hit so much different because it was like all that's left is your legacy. And even though your great grandkids might not meet you, they'll hear your stories. And if you've got no fucking stories, that's it. Like that to me is like, fuck me. Like I cannot like, nah. And I think that there are consequences. And to me, like I said, I've experienced, unfortunately, a lot of people passing in my life. And it's that part of like, I don't want to be on my deathbed or people at my funeral and they don't have fucking good stories to tell. And it's not like the most happiest celebratory experience, because like I lived a fucking wild life and I inspired so many people to do the same. Like I want it to be a happy experience versus something that's like really sad. And, you know, going to the funeral yesterday, there were so many stories and I was like, fuck, like this makes me so happy. And I want that as well, because at the end of the day, that's all you're going to have is your legacy and your stories. And if you've got no fucking stories, what then? You know, and that's when it comes to like, for me, I despise seeing people complacent, because at the end of the day, like, this is the thing, guys. Do you want everyone to say, oh, she was kind, and like the same shit that they say at every fucking funeral? Like, I'm sorry. They say that you're kind and she was heartwarming and she was a good mom and dad and brother and sister. And I want you to tell me stories about my life. I want you to say all these wild, crazy things. And I think that I really want people to see their potential and reach their potential in whatever area that looks like. And that to me is something that I just love seeing when people move from good to elite, because they can. And it's like full fucking choice, because like we spoke about the retreat, when you move from good to elite, that's where their self-respect comes. And respect is a much better feeling than trust at the end of the day. The people that I respect versus the people that I trust, it's a completely different ball game. And I want to be able to look in the mirror and say, I fucking respect the person that I am. And that's only going to happen if you move from good to great. So
yeah, that's cool. For a finishing note, what do you want your legacy to be? Like, what do you want your impact to be?
that's a fucking loaded question, Taylor. What I want my legacy to be, I think like what I want people to say at my funeral is like, she was a bad cunt and she actually just lived life and she gave it everything that she could, and she inspired people to do the same. Like she just gave and gave it her all. Like yeah, I think like I just want to fucking give it my all and give and give and give and give and give. And then when I don't feel like I can give anymore, give some more. Like that. It's like playing, like to me, it's like playing soccer. It's like when you play soccer, you want to walk off that field thinking like, fuck, you just gave it your all. Any sort of run, anything, like I want to leave Earth thinking I did it all. I did everything that I wanted to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly doing that. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And you've just like had such a big impact on my life, and just like seeing you in the retreat, like just fuck. And like the work you're doing is insane, and it's so special to be a part of it. And thank you so much for coming on and sharing a bit about your story. I feel like a lot of people, and I know we've had a conversation about this privately, don't necessarily know your story. And whilst that was only literally a tiny snippet of your story, thank you for sharing it. And just like, I think giving people a friendly kick up the ass, which is what you do best, to just like fucking start moving, do what you need to do, which is cool.
Yeah. It's what does Isaac say?
That you're the coach that like rinses us in the locker room. He'll hear your calls on and he's like, oh, it's this bitch again.
It's the rinser.
I'll get my headphones, babe.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of being rinsed, so I'm happy to take the title.
Yeah, it's like when Dij said she's giving, she's rinsing. She's doing more than that, I swear.
I love it. Thank you for having me. I loved it.